And now the National Butterfly Center finds itself at ground zero in the crosshairs of the government's massive public works project, which they have named the border wall.
And so have they already voted on this, that this is a go-ahead?
No, my understanding is that the funding for the wall was just either Friday or Monday added to an omnibus spending bill that they will be voting on this week. Their goal is to have the budget passed by the 22nd, so that we don't head into a new year on a continuing resolution for government funding.
And so it looks like they're going to vote for it then.
It looks like they'll vote for it, and who knows what else is in there. One of the most alarming things to us, and I would consider myself probably moderately political before July 20th, when I stumbled upon the government contractors at the National Butterfly Center.
Yes, tell us about that day. Let's kind of recreate that day on what actually happened. So this is July 22nd, you said?
July 20th,
oh, 20th
of this year. I believe it was a Thursday.
And what happened? Where did you go?
Well, the National Butterfly Center is 100 acres. And it runs north-south. So our southernmost part of the property runs all the way to the Rio Grande River. We have 70 acres that is behind the levee. The levee and the Mission Main Canal bisect our property. We have 30 acres on the north side of the levee. So we go back and forth. And I was headed over the levee south toward the river with a person who was looking to bid on some work we needed to have done back there. And instead of encountering javelina and coyotes, maybe some road runners, as I had expected we would see when we went over the levee, there were 5 men, 3 of them with chainsaws and 2 of them with very heavy equipment, a brush hog, which is a big tractor that pulls a blade and chains with it's like a 5-foot blade for mowing, and then the brush boom, which is a similar blade only on like a reticulated arm so that it can cut sideways and up above at all angles. And I asked these guys, like, hey, what are you guys doing here? And they said, clearing this land. And I said, you mean my land?
Yeah, exactly.
And the guy, in his hard hat and his goggles and his neon vest, he said, let me call my supervisor. And I said, I think that would be a good idea. And while he called his supervisor, I called my community border liaison. So because we are landowners on the river, I have a Customs and Border Protection agent assigned to me to handle any issues, problems, questions that I might have on an ongoing basis. And I called that guy and I said, dude, like, what's going on? You've got guys back here who say they've been sent by Border Patrol to clear our land.
And was it hard to keep your cool? Because I would think I would be really upset at that point.
I remember at that point being kind of cool because I was kind of clueless. I really we're next door to a National Wildlife Refuge tract, and then next door to that is a Texas Parks and Wildlife tract. And on the other side of the property is some private land owned by a developer. But, we're in the floodplain here. So there's really not any development going on. But there is, road maintenance and farming and other things going on around us all the time. So honestly, I thought maybe these people were lost.
Okay.
I thought maybe they had landed and started work and didn't know where they were in the wrong place. But
Had
it
they
turns
already
out
done very much, Mariana? Had they done?
they had been at work for maybe an hour.
Oh,
It
okay.
didn't look like they had managed to accomplish a whole lot. And I can't recall, we've taken the rolling wheel and measured about how far they made it down the road, but the impact was obvious.
Gosh, if you would not have gotten there when you did, can you
I
imagine what you would have found?
I can't even imagine because, I mean, the two pieces of heavy
Wow.
equipment, three guys with chainsaws,
Oh, they
and
could level an acre probably in no time.
I think they could have moved very rapidly down the road, and then who knows what else. When the crew supervisor got there, he was on the phone with somebody. He said it was Border Patrol or CBP, Customs and Border Protection. He was waving a piece of paper around that had 3 photos on it of our property. That's when I realized that someone had sent them there.
Wow.
Um,
That's like
and
when someone sees someone with a photo that's a hitman and they're after them or something, you're just like, we're the target. Oh my gosh.
that is sort of, I think, when all the hairs stand up on your back or your neck when you think, oh
They're
my
they're
gosh,
here for us. They're here for
what
us.
is happening here? And they explained, and I think this is important for people to understand, where we are, the border to Mexico is in the middle of the Rio Grande River. The border to Mexico, our international boundary, is not on land, but the border wall, as it would impact the National Butterfly Center, the maps and everything we've seen to date show it being built in the levee, which is 1.2 miles from the river. So the workmen explained to me they were there to clear 1.2 miles to the river. At the same time, we noticed the surveyor's stakes and the big X's in the middle of the road, which were the aerial survey marks and everything, which told us very clearly that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers had also been on our property with no notice, with no permission, doing the surveying for the border wall.
So when I'm listening to all this, how can I help but think eminent domain? And I'm just wondering, what is the plan here as far as taking land for this wall from other
If
people?
if it were a matter of the government's going to come in and they're going to negotiate a fair price and go through due process, that would be one thing. But what happened in South Texas in the last round of border wall construction in 2008 to 2010-ish, the government just took property. There was no eminent domain exercised. We even have a federal judge here who never got notice that his land was going to be taken and affected by the border wall.
Oh, his own land, the judge's
His own land.
Wow.
His own land. And to this date, so now we're end of 2017, almost 2018, there are still 91 lawsuits open because the citizens of the Rio Grande Valley have had to turn around and sue the federal government for inverse eminent domain. They've had to sue the government and make them answer for what they've done and invoke eminent domain, condemn their property, and negotiate a fair price and compensate them. So we're talking about a wholesale land grab that did not follow due process, that did not uphold the Constitution or honor private property rights. That's what happened 8 years ago. And that's what we're trying to get out ahead of now, because the fact that the contractors just showed up on our land doing this work pretty much told us that the feds want to follow the same MO this time. Just come in and take the